Hi and welcome everyone, Friday Tuck here. This is my epoch. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about today is the 5 ways that homeless are exploited. Now you may agree or disagree with me. I'd love to hear your comments down there. The first one is always going to be the judicial system. And a lot of people may go, well, why is the judicial system exploiting the homeless, and how is it actually exploiting the homeless? What you really got to do is you got to really dig deep and understand what's really going on. So, okay, let's just talk about my homeless experience, okay? Because if I would have been caught up in the judicial system the way that most people are, I probably would have turned out to be a lot like these people are. Because after a while, when you're defeated, you're just like, why should I even try? Oh, here's a new drug. Let me try this one. Okay, and it becomes a downward spiral to implied unaliving. We'll just call it that way, because what ends up happening for a lot of people that end up starting down the path for drugs is just they see no other way out. It's like, okay, even Puckett, one of the things that I'm really proud of with him is that he ended up because he basically died on the street. I had to pick him up and carry him back to Grace and have the ambulance called because he essentially went into a diabetic coma, and he had pneumonia on top of that because we were going through the 20-degree freeze last year. And so between those two things, he if I hadn't have been there, he probably would not be alive today. Okay. And talking to him afterwards, it's like he did not want to live through. A lot of the reasons why some of these people are doing harder and harder drugs is because they don't really want to live through this situation. Okay, because they've been caught up in the system so much. I mean, Puckett's been to prison. Once you go to prison, you have a criminal record. You can no longer get a job. You now have harder time being able to get a place to live. I mean, all of a sudden, all of these obstacles start coming in place. And you did the crime, you did the time. So you're supposed to be able to turn over a new leaf. But the way the judicial system is set up is to continue. Once you are in the judicial system, it's hard to be able to get out. There was a time, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this, there was a time where I got caught up in the judicial system about 2015, we'll say. So, less than 10 years ago. And if I hadn't really worked hard to keep my nose clean, to, follow through on everything that I could follow through on, I had my own little thing. But because I was able to do that, I did not, continuously stay in the system. But what generally happens is once they put you in the system, you're in the system for life. And the police officers, especially if they know that you have a criminal record, now all of a sudden it gives them probable cause, because once a criminal, always a criminal. Once a drug addict, always a drug addict. So you never really get a chance to be able to turn over a new leaf. And so the judicial system does it in a roundabout way, because once they get you in the system, their whole job is to keep you in the system. So let's say you got into something. Okay, so like my friend Puckett, he wants to clean up and go sober. And he wants to move to a new place and turn over a new leaf and start a new lifestyle because of the inspirations in which I had given him the year before. Okay, but because he has a criminal record and other things, because he's in a desperate situation, not only was he exploited for his need for money so he can get the hell out of the situation that he's in, so he could get the hell out of Dodge. But then the judicial system comes in there. And so now what will end up happening is he may spend a couple of years in prison. Once he gets out of prison, now all of a sudden, because he's a known convict, he's known that he's on probation. There is a network that these officers are able to tap into that know who's what and where is why. Okay, and so now all of a sudden they're looking for new ways to be able to trip him up, constantly searching him, constantly this, constantly that, to the point where he is going to constantly face the inevitable path back to jail. Most people that go to jail, once they get out, they get on probation, they're right back in the system because the system is designed for failure. It's designed for them to be able to go back into it. And I think that this is probably one of the most malicious ways in which the homeless are exploited beyond any other reason. Okay, that's why I've spent so much time talking about this. Now, maybe you disagree with me or maybe you don't. But those who have been in the system can tell you, full-heartedly that yes, this is exactly how it works. Once you get in, you can't get out. And, a lot of the times when these guys get out of prison, if they're not going to a halfway house, they're being dropped off at a homeless shelter. So now not only do they have to deal with homelessness and all that other stuff, and the homeless industrial complex, but now they also have to deal with the judicial industrial complex as well. Okay, number 2 is the homeless industrial complex. You guys have heard me talk about this, as a topic as a whole. I would recommend that you go do a search for the homeless industrial complex, either on my page or on YouTube, because I should pop up near the top if not. Okay, but here's the thing, and this is something that I've learned personally and I have personal experience with, is that the thing about the homeless industrial complex is that in order for them to be able to raise money, they have to be able to have homeless, okay? So if they do what their mandate is, which is to end homelessness, to help alleviate homelessness, to help get you off of the streets, then they will essentially work themselves out of a job, or at least that's their thought. Okay. And so what ends up happening is that a lot of these services are geared up to be able to keep you dependent, whether it be food stamps, general assistance, Medicaid, and all these other government services. Because the thing is that's how they get their funding. And for every person that actually becomes self-sufficient and independent, that means less funding for them. A personal experience, and you probably have heard me talk about this a couple of times, this is probably the one that gets my goat the most, is when I was in San Francisco, I decided to start going to college because I wanted to be able to have a better life, and I didn't want to be doing grunt work for the rest of my life. And so, I went to college for network administration, and I got a federal work study, and they paid me $470 a month. Well, under general assistance in San Francisco, you couldn't make more than $465 a month. Well, what ends up happening to me, as soon as they find out that I'm making $470 a month, my shelter is immediately canceled. It was $600 a month to be able to share a studio apartment with 2 other people. How the hell do you expect anybody to survive on $470 a month? I have no idea. But the second that they realized that I was trying to gain my independence, and, all of the services and everything that was out there was immediately pulled from me, to the point to where now I instead of, if it wasn't for my overall determination and my stubbornness, and maybe stubbornness is the wrong word, but I'll just call it stubbornness, and my refusal to quit, I ended up finding a private shelter, and I ended up working my way off of the streets anyways, because I was so determined that I just refused to lose. Okay, and this is just something that I had to deal with. But if it wasn't for a private, independent shelter, I would have been right back in the system. I would have never been able to go through college like I was doing. I probably would have never gotten a job in my career field. And I probably would have been a career homeless. And I probably would have never, ever, ever gotten off of the streets if it wasn't just for the fact of just sheer will and determination to be able to deal with that. And this is the way that the system is designed. Even these not-for-profits, they're collecting money because they're trying to, help the homeless and do all this. But the thing is if they actually do their mandate, then they work themselves out of a job. Because if you actually get to a point where you can actually find real solutions to homelessness, why do you need to raise money for homeless? And well, they like their job and their cushy titles and the way that people see them, and they get to virtue signal and all this other stuff. And at the end of the day, you're stuck with whatever, in that same situation, because the thing is everybody needs to make money. And even though you don't have a job, there's more money to be had on you for not having a job than if you do have a job. Because, and this is what I keep trying to tell other homeless. It's like, look, Grace Marketplace, they get paid by the government on time. And then they pay their employees on time, but yet they can't seem to open up the cafeteria on time. It would be funny if all of a sudden their checks started getting withheld by an extra couple of days. I bet you they'd start opening up on time. But the thing is we're stuck because there's really nowhere else to go. And so we're stuck getting inferior services designed to keep us where we're at. Well, they go around and collect money and convince you that they're doing their part to end homeless. And it's just the homeless people that just don't want to get off the streets. Well, no, after a while, you become so defeated. You're like, why the hell do I want to try? Okay. Now, this is one that you guys probably won't really think much of, but it's the political system. The political system exploits the homeless so much. You're actually starting to see it. So one of my subscribers is sending me articles from what's going on in New Mexico. And this has been going on in the country for a lot of years. Being homeless is they're trying to figure out ways to criminalize it. Why? Because the judicial system makes money, the homeless industrial complex makes money, the city makes money. The city is going to make money because as they get people off the streets, they can say, look, we've reduced crime. Because the thing is all the homeless that they pick up and all the homeless that they write tickets to, that increases their overall crime rate. It doesn't mean that there's real crime going on. It just means that they have this many tickets and this many, claims against, individuals, and most of them happen to end up being homeless. Okay. And so at the end of the day, a politician is going to get elected, especially on the conservative side. Yeah, your money goes to pay for these derelicts and they ain't paying anything. And so what are they doing? They're motivating their base so that they can create this amount of hatred, so that they can make and keep and retain their power. And are they doing anything to actually solve the problem? No, they're actually complaining about it, making it worse, and doing everything they can to make another human being as miserable as they possibly can, so that they can get reelected. And then the Democrats do the same thing. But the Democrats are way more sneaky about it than the Republicans are. The Republicans are straightforward. They're not a very sneaky type of individual. Okay, so when you're looking at the Democrats, they're like, oh yes, we need to give all these homeless benefits because all these not-for-profits and all these unions and all these organizations are the ones giving them the money, and so they're going to go out there and they're going to put as much money towards homelessness. But as we talked about in the previous section, you have the homeless industrial complex, and it's against their best interest to be able to actually end homelessness. And so therefore they're going to be lobbying the politicians who make the laws, who make the rules. And, so then you've got the conservatives that are out there trying to criminalize it and make everything that you do criminal, being homeless as a criminal act, which therefore feeds the judicial system. And then you've got the Democrats that are feeding the NGOs, the not-for-profits, and anything that's unionized. So therefore, they're lining their pockets because that's how they're getting their campaign contributions, and therefore they're fueling the homeless industrial complex. So now all of a sudden you've got three different predators that are actually working together to be able to work against you. And this is really what happens out there. If you really want to get down to like the nuts and bolts and the core and get away from all the emotional BS and just look at it for the facts and what's really out there, this is really what's going on. And so the politicians are feeding into this because they're creating the laws that make the fact of just existing as a human being a crime, because you're not giving them any money. Okay? Because again, it all boils down to money. Number 4 is employers. So I get a lot of people that call me a loser, tell me to go out and get a job, all those different things, okay? Well, I remember way back when, because, I used to be that guy that was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be homeless. I need to go get a job. I need to go get up on my feet, and so on and so forth. So regardless of my situation, just because of sheer will and just determination, I'm like, I'm going to get off the streets. I'm going to go get me a job. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. And I would show up to job interviews, and, I was as clean as I could possibly be. I mean, back then they didn't offer shelters or showers or anything else like that. You had to go take a bird bath in a gas station bathroom, or somewhere, even a McDonald's bathroom. You had to go somewhere and take a bird bath so you didn't stink. And then, you had to keep at least one pair of really clean clothes so that you could go in the interview and look reasonable, and maybe even find a stash spot. around the place where you're doing your interview, so that you don't show up with the bag. Because the thing is the second that they find out that you're homeless, they will automatically say, oh well, we were going to offer you a job, but we're not. So you've got these people out there going, get a job, bum, you're a loser, I'm tired of paying my taxes so that you can do this and take from me. When in reality, most of these people, and part of what causes the defeatist attitude within the homeless population, why most of them are like, I don't want a job, screw a job, is because they know that they're getting discriminated against. It doesn't matter if they clean themselves up. It doesn't matter what they do. Is it the second that an employer finds out that you're homeless, because it's not a protected class, they can automatically go, no, we don't want you here. Because one, they believe the stigma that you're automatically a drug addict, even if you're not. Or two, they're like, oh, well, you stink and this and that and the other. So it's not like, yeah, I got to be able to afford a place and a shower and all this stuff. And well, I got to wait for my first paycheck, and then a lot of this will change and I'll start looking a lot better. But no. Oh, I'm sorry, you're homeless. I'm sorry, I can't hire you. I've actually, there was a couple of situations, especially one in Houston, where I was supposed to go work for a debt collector. And I'm like, I don't have a criminal record. I don't have a drug problem. I'm just in a situation. And the guy, I says, okay, yeah, I can do that. But I also need you to understand that, I need to be able to have a couple hours in the morning so I can go get cleaned up so that I can show up for work. And once he realized that I was homeless, he's like, sorry, the job offer is no longer there. Have a nice day. Get out of my office. And this happens more often than not. Okay. Now, the environment has gotten a lot nicer towards the homeless, where it's not as bad, but 20 years ago, that's exactly what you had to go through. So, it becomes a defeatist. You think, why do I even want to try? Why do I want to look for a job if the second I go in for an interview, if they find out that I'm homeless, even if I had the job, they're going to tell me I don't have the job anymore. So what's the point? Okay. And number 5 is probably an obvious one. It's gangs. Gangs exploit the homeless. Okay, I've had it tried to happen to me a couple of times. Once in Cincinnati, I told you about the guy that showed me the little. So it's just like a tiny little thing. It looks like an ice cube. They call it ice. I don't know. It's a derivative of the meth family, I think. I'm not sure because I don't do it. I don't care about it, but. You've got these gangs. So when you become homeless, if you're not doing some sort of drugs, then even if it's just drinking a beer, out on the sidewalk or something, because or whether it's smoking weed or doing something. Okay, you will have a hard time within the homeless community because nobody will trust you. Because in a lot of ways out here, because of what the criminal justice system and the political system and the homeless industrial complex do, and then the defeatist attitude of employers, the thing is you're going to come out there and you're going to be put into that situation. That's why I smoke my weed, is because without me doing something, it would be a much harder for me to be able to work within the homeless community to be able to get what it is that I want. Now, I don't want to be able to associate with the homeless community, but it just naturally I have to because of the environment and the lifestyle in which I live. But a lot of these gangs will come up to you, or a dealer, because your dealers are generally gang members. Okay, so I would be hard pressed unless he's like a freelancer, but he still has to get approval from the gang to be able to freelance out there, because he's stepping on their territory, their feet, their money. Okay, and so all in all of the drugs that come out have some form of gang affiliation. And so when you come out there, they're going to be looking like the guy with ice. He's like, here, you do ice? Because he was hoping that I'd fiend for it. He thought I was full of crap when I told him I'm just a strict stoner. I don't do anything else. And then he started looking at me kind of weird, and he's like, you don't even do this? And the thing is what he was trying to do was, and what a lot of these guys will do is they will give you your first hit. And then once they give you your first hit, they're expecting you to come back because, you gave them the good stuff, you like the high, and so therefore you come back. Okay, and then therefore now all of a sudden every single dollar that you make, whether you're panhandling or stealing or whatever it is that you're doing to be able to make your money, so that you could survive, now goes to that drug dealer. Okay. And all because he, what it's called jump started, all because he jump started you on something. My uncle tried to jump start me on meth. And if it wasn't for my mother, I would have actually fallen head first into it. Luckily I only did it for a couple of weeks before my mom's like, I will rat you out if you don't stop. And that was probably the only good thing my mother ever did for me. And, but it was my own uncle that was trying to do it to me so that I could support his habit. Okay. That's what he was really trying to do. It had nothing to do with, oh yeah, it's a good da da da. No, he just needed somebody to support his habit, because every time he went to get some for me, he got some for himself. And and so he middlemanned it to make sure that he could keep himself going, so that he could keep his drug habit going. And he did it to several members within my family, and some of them didn't come out of it, and some of them did. I'm one of them that did. Okay. But this happens on a regular basis because they want your money. It's all about money and power and control. And even at the gang level, this is what they're really trying to do, as far as, spread the drug epidemic. This is why I talk about, what are we going to do when the dust settles and we got to get back to work? Are we going to have a system that is set up to be able to, at least mitigate the expansion of the drug problem? Or are we going to just keep doing the same old thing? And now we have a whole workforce that is completely jump started on drugs in the whole drug epidemic. And fentanyl is becoming a big deal out here. It is a really, really, really big deal. And the thing is people are chasing what's called chasing the dragon. They're chasing that next great high. And and so once they lose, they have such a tolerance to one, then they jump to another that's going to give them an even bigger rush, until finally one day it kills them. Okay. And the drugs, the gangs are perpetuating this for their own profit and gain, just like the judicial system, just like the political system, just like just like the homeless industrial complex. All in all, they all work hand in hand together, whether directly or indirectly. There's an argument behind that. But even here at Grace, man, I remember last year, and me talking about it, was that, the cops would be on their way. The security guard would go tell all the dealers, cops are on the way, you better put your stuff away. And so they put their stuff away until the cops went away, and then they go right back to doing what they're doing. So therefore, they were helping and perpetuating the whole same thing. And they really weren't, they weren't doing any service to the community. They were actually, doing more harm to the community than anything. But, it is what it is. Okay. So these are the 5 ways in which the homeless are being exploited. You guys know how to help the channel. Everything's down in the description. Become a subscriber, hit the like button. I'd love to hear your comments on this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.